Mother Nature is a serial killer. No one is better or more creative. I know I look horrible. I haven't shaved in like a week and a half. I'm on a staycation, but you're not watching these videos for the way I look. You're watching these for the way I talk. Well, hopefully. So I am here August 20th. You're probably not getting this video uploaded until August 21st, but still, it is the night of August 20th, and I am doing a review of The Day After Tomorrow. So fitting, because right now, Los Angeles is being hit with the effects of Hurricane Hillary. I believe it's called Hurricane Hillary, and it is kind of crazy outside. So, The Day After Tomorrow, quick disclaimers before I really get into it. These videos are completely unedited, so it's just me, unedited and unfiltered, and whatever comes out of my mouth is whatever comes out of my mouth. Someone mentioned the other day that it's more like a podcast than a YouTube channel. I don't have a lot of edits and cuts and little things like that. It's just me talking about all kinds of movies because I love film. I am absolutely a cinephile, and spoilers will happen, so if you're worried about spoilers, look at the list below the video. I'll put a whole list of all the movies I talk about, and I'll put a header of the movies that I actually give spoilers for, and those movies that maybe I just mention or just quote, because sometimes I just go on a little crazy quoting spree, and I'll quote things that in my mind are somewhat relevant but may not be relevant for everyone. Okay. Anyway, we are not doing one on the poster. Like I said last time at the end of my last review, I said I was going to try to find one on the poster, but, you know, something just, with the hurricane happening, I figured, you know what, it would be a good idea to do the one in the book that says Challenge Number 32, a natural disaster film. I figured since what was going on outside, we might match it with a relevant film. The Day After Tomorrow. Which, if you haven't seen it, just to say right now, before I get into any spoilers, it's really good. Watch it. Roland Emmerich, I mean, there was a time when anything Roland Emmerich came out, everybody knew what it was going to be. It was just going to be a big, fun disaster over the top. I put a note in all my notes that, you know, at the time, Roland Emmerich was the Michael Bay of natural disasters. So if you went and saw a Michael Bay film, I mean, those people who know film know what I'm talking about. You want to go see a big Michael Bay film, you're seeing a big spectacle film with a lot of crazy stuff in it, and it's just outrageous entertainment, and you just watch it. Roland Emmerich at the time was the Michael Bay of like natural disasters. He did. Actually, I might as well look up what he did. He did a handful of movies that I enjoy, and a handful of movies that probably I haven't even seen. He did Independence Day, which most people absolutely love. I liked it, but it wasn't like my favorite thing in the world. The Day After Tomorrow, obviously, he did Godzilla. He did Stargate, which I absolutely love and would love to review one of these days. I need to get the original film because my film version, my DVD version, is all messed up, and I need to replace it. He did a bunch of other things. So, you know, Roland Emmerich. Anyway, The Day After Tomorrow. Year released. This is, again, in the book and not on the poster. Year released 2004. Aspect ratio 2.39:1. Running time 2 hours and 4 minutes. Rated PG. Genre action, adventure, sci-fi. Date challenge completed today, August 20th, 2023. I rated it 3.5 stars. Starring, because this is just fun. You know, this is just a fun, crazy, wonderful, you know, energetic film. Like, it's not winning any Oscars, or probably wouldn't win any Oscars, or didn't. I know it didn't win any Oscars. You know, like you're watching, you know, Armageddon. You're not watching it because you wanted to see an Oscar-winning performance. You're watching it because it's fun. And speaking of Armageddon, honestly, there was a movie that came out about the same time, about the same theme that I enjoyed more, Deep Impact. I liked that more than I liked Armageddon, I've seen Deep Impact more because I enjoyed it more. Just the human aspect of it and the story. And anyway, I liked both of those movies. They came out at the same time. They were competitive because they were both about the same thing. I ended up enjoying Deep Impact more. Anyway, this is starring Jake Gyllenhaal, who at the time, I've said in another review, you know, I had a huge crush on him back then, and I would watch anything he was in. And this was one of those things where I was like, oh it's got Jake, I'm going to go see it. Dennis Quaid, which I was, you know, I wasn't like the hugest fan of Dennis Quaid, but I do remember seeing him in a couple of films like Caveman and Interstellar and Innerscape. Oh my God. It has been a long time since I've seen it. It's not Interstellar. It was Dennis Quaid, Innerscape, or I used to watch that movie all the time. It was so funny with Martin Short. It was such a great film. I should actually buy it because I haven't seen it in so long. And it was such a really fun... Okay, he was in Caveman. Yeah. I said that. No, not Dreamscape. Innerspace, which was great. With Martin Short. I love that film. I should find that film and buy it because I haven't seen it in a long time. And I used to love that movie. It was so much fun. And speaking of what, Dreamscape was also amazing. Now that is one film I wish they would redo. Here I go off on a tangent. I told you, unedited, unfiltered. Dreamscape was such a great concept, but limited in 1984, limited to the time, the special effects of the time, the writing, the producing of the time, but I think could make a fantastic, if you really wanted to go that way, a fantastic horror film nowadays. If you really took Dreamscape and really like stretched the scary parts of it and the intrusive parts of it, and you can do anything in a dream part of it. And if you get your heart rate high enough, you will die. Absolutely. You know, it could be a, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street of the day if they really did it well. I would love to see a remake of that. Now, I know that there are some movies that I hate when they do remakes, and I think that they shouldn't. I think that they should take Dreamscape, the concept of Dreamscape, and make a really good horror nowadays. Maybe not redo Dreamscape, you know, but something like it. Anyway, I love Dennis Quaid, and when I found out he was in this movie, because we're talking about 2004, and in my opinion, I hadn't seen a whole lot he had done since those movies. Back in the 80s when he did Caveman. Was Caveman in the 80s? Yeah, 81. Caveman and Enemy Mine and Dreamscape and Innerspace, and he was in the Jaws 3 or whatever, or 3D or whatever. He had done a lot of stuff and he was very popular and I really liked him. And then I feel like, in my opinion, there was this long stretch of time where he didn't do anything. So when I heard that Dennis Quaid was going to be in this one, I was like, oh, great. You know, Dennis Quaid. I like Dennis Quaid. Okay, so anyway, off on a little tangent on Dennis Quaid, starring also Ian Holm. Ian Holm is great in this movie, and J.O. Sanders. Now, the reason why I pick out J.O. Sanders, he is a side character, but so are a lot of people in this film. The reason I picked J.O. Sanders to actually specifically talk about or specifically say is two reasons. One, I'll tell you because it's a question in the book, but two, he's such a great supporting actor. There are some actors that you will probably never see in a leading role. You know, Aaron Eckhart used to be one of those characters where he was always a side character and such a great supporting actor and did some great work, but you would never really see him in a leading role until finally they gave him, some leading things to do. But J.O. Sanders, I feel, is the same thing. He is such a great actor, and a supporting actor, such a great supporting actor. Would I ever really see him as a leading character? I don't know. Like, I can't think of a model that he would be really good as a leading character, but I feel like his ability, if they gave him the opportunity, he would be fantastic. He would. I think he's a great actor. or was. I mean, I haven't seen a whole lot that he's done nowadays, but you know, Day After Tomorrow was almost 20 years ago, 19 years ago. Wow. Wow. Now that I think of it, wow, that was a long time ago. Okay, directed by Roland Emmerich. I already said that. Produced by Roland Emmerich and Mark Gordon. And when I saw Mark Gordon, I was like, boom, I know that name. What do I know? Now, I don't follow all the producers. A lot of directors I do follow, and I do follow their names, and I know a lot of musicians, same thing. Their name comes up, and I go, oh, I know what they did. And funny enough, some casting directors, I'll go, oh, Bonnie Timmerman, oh, I like her stuff, you know. Anyway, so when I saw Mark Gordon as the producer, I was like, it threw something off in my brain, and I was like, what else did he produce? Because I know that name. What do I know that name from? And turns out I had just seen a movie with him. Oh, Speed. I was in the gym the other day, and I put on Speed and was watching that. And so Mark Gordon. Okay. So Mark Gordon's produced some other cool things, including this and Speed. This is written by Roland Emmerich and Jeffrey. You know, so my name is quite often mispronounced, and it sucks when I mispronounce other people's names, and I feel really bad. But the best that I can do with this name is Nachmanoff. I don't know if that's right or not. I'm sorry if it's not Jeffrey Machnoff. Music by Harold Klosser. I really, the music is nice in this. It carries through. It's really nice, but I don't know that name. I don't know his name like other things that he's done. I know he's worked with Roland Emmerich. I think I looked him up, and he's worked with Roland Emmerich again on like 2012, the movie 2012. But the music for this was really nice. I liked it. Awards received. Okay, as you may have already guessed, this is not one of those like gonna sweep the Oscars type of film. It's just an entertaining, wonderful, entertaining film, and it's not about winning awards. But when I loved that it won an MTV Movie Award for Best Action Sequence. Well, good. At least it got something. It got a couple other wins for special effects and things like that, and that's something I'm going to talk about later. But it was nice to see. It was nice to see it winning something, even though this is not a type of film that I'm watching that I would think would be any kind of an award-winning film. But it did. It's good. Okay, why did you choose this particular film? I already said right now in LA, August 20th, we are being affected by Hurricane Hillary. And I literally walked outside before I started this movie at about 6:30, walked outside and I looked out and the pouring torrential rain and the gray skies was just like in this movie when at that point when the ocean swells over the Statue of Liberty, and you see New York like constant rain. I'm like, that's what it looked like outside. That's what it looked like outside only less than 3 hours ago. And so that's why I picked this film. I was like, I mean, it's perfect for the time. I mean, might as well review this film right now. It is not on the poster. Have you seen this movie before? Yeah, lots of times. I am almost positive I saw this in the theater. Like I said, I was watching anything Jake Gyllenhaal at the time. Would you recommend this film? Why or why not? Absolutely, yes. I don't think there's anything in this film that I wouldn't show anybody. I mean, it's like watching The Swiss Family Robinson, which was a Disney film, you know, and I'm not trying to equate this with Disney. What I'm trying to say is that this is definitely for everyone. Any age, I would think, except for 5 or 6, maybe don't show them this film. They probably wouldn't get it, and that's perfectly fine. They shouldn't. They should be watching cartoons, and that's cool. But 8, 9 years old, absolutely could understand this film. And I don't think there's anything in this film. I don't think there's any language in this film. I don't think there's any sex in this film or anything in this film that they wouldn't be able to handle or wouldn't be able to deal with. So would I recommend it to anybody? Absolutely, absolutely. Which character were you most able to identify with or connect with in what way? Okay, this is why, again, this is the second reason why I brought up J.O. Sanders, is because for the first time in one of my reviews where it asked that question, I don't identify with the leading character. I honestly identify with Frank, who is played by J.O. Sanders. And I've said before, some of my characteristics are very dependent and there when you need me, and to make the sacrifice play type of person, to put others before myself, absolutely. And that's what Frank does. He has a very small role. He doesn't have a lot to do, but you get almost from the beginning that that's the type of character he is, because J.O. Sanders absolutely. Like I've said before, the mark of a really good actor is to believe you are who you are portraying, and he definitely believes. You can tell from the early scenes that he believes he is who he is, and without knowing that he's going to make the sacrifice play later on in the movie, you already get from the beginning that that's the type of character he is, because he embodies it already. And so, and that's the mark of a great actor. Unfortunately, he hasn't done a lot of big stuff that I think that he absolutely could handle. But I believe from the beginning of this film that this character would make the sacrifice play, and then he ends up doing it. You know, it's great. It's fantastic. Best line or memorable quote. There are some really, really good lines in this movie. I'll go through my notes. From Ian Holm. I mean, who do they give it to? They give it to Ian Holm. Why not? There's some really nice movie quotes. I haven't seen the movie trailer in years, so I'm sure there's some really cool quotes that they pulled out and put in that trailer, and that people remember, and that's perfectly fine. But what I always remember from this, the one line that I always remember from, I remember quite a few lines from this, but the one that always sticks out in my memory every time I think about that is, well, that's ridiculous. How can he fail you for being smarter than he is? when Dennis Quaid's character is talking, I'm sorry, what is Dennis Quaid's character's name? Jack Jack Hall. Why didn't I think of that? Jack, when Jack's talking to his son, Jake Gyllenhaal, Sam, about failing calculus, and he's like, I do the problems in my head, I don't write out the solutions. He says, I don't. And then the teacher said, I don't believe you. If I can't do the problems in my head, then you must be cheating. Well, how can he fail you for being smarter than he is? That's what I told him. Yeah, how did he take it? He failed me, remember? Yeah, that's a cool little scene. I like that little scene, and it's well written. Whoever wrote that, either Roland or Jeffrey, that's a beautiful little scene. Great, perfect lines. Were you surprised by the ending? What would you do differently? I was not surprised. Okay, so it depends on what you qualify as the ending. Was I surprised at the ending that most of the United States is under ice? Yes, I did not expect that when I started the film. But was I surprised by it in the natural progression of the film? No, not at all. Because they built you up for that. Absolutely. Was I surprised that Jack finds his son in New York and saves him? No, that's the kind of film you're watching. You're not watching... Roland Emmerich is not going to make a movie where you spend all this time with Jack Sam. You spend all this time with Sam and his friends in New York, and they're stuck in this, and then they're dead at the end. No, that's not the kind of movie he's going to make. So was I surprised? No, I wasn't surprised by the end. No. What are some things you would do if you faced a similar disaster? Okay, so instead of trying to think of, this is exactly what I wrote. What can you do? I like to think of myself as rugged enough sort of guy that I could deal with most weather situations. But who can stand against Mother Nature? And if it's your time to go, it's your time to go. And that's why I began with the quote that I began is Mother Nature is awesome and powerful and way more powerful than we as human beings are. I mean, case in point, when disasters like hurricanes happen, what can we do? We can survive. We can't do anything. And so that's why I said, what can we do? Okay, at the very bottom it says a 707 Boeing jet was used on the set of Twister 1996 to help generate the 200 miles per hour wind speeds produced by the tornadoes. Holy crap. That 200 miles an hour. Wow. I could have done Twister. I have Twister. And I think that's a great film. I think it's fun. I just decided to go with this one. And side note, Helen Hunt, I think she's great in it. I knew her father. Her father was the sweetest man in the world. And I started at a company, a financial management company. I was doing finances, and he was a client there. And the first year I was there, he didn't know me. I didn't know him. I met him. He was the sweetest man in the world. And for Christmas, he gave me a $100 gift card. And I started my board game collection with a couple of classics with that I still have in my closet today. Clue and Sorry and things like that. So anytime I think of Helen, I think of him because he is the sweetest man in the world. I've never met Helen, but he was a wonderful person. Okay, so notes on The Day After Tomorrow. The title scene is so beautiful. All that snow. So there's a medication I take that raises my body temperature, and so I'm constantly hot, and I think I have one of those metabolisms that adjusts with what you eat, and so if I eat a lot or drink a lot, my metabolism goes way up, and I'm like a furnace. I can't sleep at night, constantly sweating, and I'm allergic to the sun, which is a problem. So all these little factors lead into the fact that winter is my absolute favorite time of year. I love it when it's cold. Unfortunately, in LA, we don't get much of a winter. I would love to have a winter. But anyway, the beginning of this movie, it opens up with all that ice in Antarctica. It's so beautiful. I'm just oh my God, it's gorgeous. That is my favorite weather, my favorite scenery. I can't wait to visit Alaska. It's one of the places I've always wanted to visit, always wanted to stay. And last year I was going to go for just before Christmas, and everything kind of fell through and I didn't go. This year I would love to go for Christmas, but it's probably not going to work out. It's a little expensive, for me at least right now. For me, it's a little expensive. In the future, it won't be expensive for me. But anyway, I just love that opening scene with all the snow in Antarctica. Would I visit Antarctica? Sure, but why? I don't know what's in Antarctica. Is there a draw to Antarctica? Because I totally would, because the weather would be great. I mean, in my opinion, I would think the weather would be great, and the scenery. I already talked about J.O. Sanders, so I don't need to do that again. The opening scene absolutely sets the tone. Right away, that huge piece of crack through the ocean that they almost die. I mean, this is what we're watching. Like I said, Michael Bay of natural disasters. So we are watching Roland Emmerich. Absolutely, this is what we came for, and I love that beginning scene. So right after that, when Jack goes to talk to the summit, he goes to talk at the summit. And he tells them about the changing climate. Okay, so first thing I want to say is I am not one of those crazy... sorry. I'm not going to say that. I am not an enthusiastic environmentalist. I do believe that the Earth acts and reacts because it's a living thing. To think that the Earth is not a living thing is ridiculous. I think the Earth is a living thing, and I forget whose law it is. For every action, there is a reaction. Okay, so I do believe that the Earth acts and reacts to what we put in it and what we do to it. Absolutely. I am not an environmentalist who's going to sit here and preach environmental blah, 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 blah. I'm not. I also believe it's absolutely impossible that we can destroy the Earth because it will react to what we do. And we will react to that. Action and reaction. So in the beginning, when he goes to the summit, I really love this part, and I wanted to point it out because every time I hear it, it's as ridiculous as the first time I heard it. When he says, our economy is every bit as fragile as the environment. Okay, I love that line because it's so stupid. But it's not stupid like it's a bad written line. No, it's a beautifully written line, wonderfully written, and it fits that character perfect, the vice president. Okay, it fits that character perfect, but I think the sentiment is the stupidest, most ridiculous thing you can think of, because economy is a man-made structure. It is not real. The economy is based on our perception that a mineral in the earth is worth a certain amount more than this mineral or that mineral. And every country's economy or standing is based on how much of this mineral, I'm talking about gold if you don't know what I'm talking about, how much gold they have, how much of this mineral they have in the earth. Okay, we have assigned a value to it, and then we assign a value to everybody, and we put a number on how much do you get on your check and how much do you have to give to the government. Economy is a man-made structure based on something we all happen to more or less agree upon or with, whether we are okay with it or not. It doesn't matter. We accept it as a society. Environment is not. Environment is real, tangible. The rain that is coming out of the sky is real. The earth that shakes. We had an earthquake, a 5.0 up in Ojai, which is only a couple miles away from here. I felt it here about 4 hours ago or so. I can't remember exactly. Earthquakes are real. Tornadoes are real. Hurricanes are real. This actually happens. Economy is not real. It's a man-made structure. So this line about economy is just as fragile as the economy. It's just so... It makes me laugh every time because it's ridiculous. I'm not saying that the line is wrong. The line is perfect and ridiculous. Okay, what is my name? Like I said, I'm not trying to get on a soapbox here because I'm not preaching environmentalism. Because the earth will act and react to what we do, and it's real. So I just love that part. That part is funny. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts, and it's funny, and it's well written. Okay, moving on. I don't know why I put this. Okay, so here's this note. So right after that, when we go to Tokyo and the snow or the hail's coming down, the guy at the bar is really cute. Now, I think he's totally cute. I normally do not find Asian people. Well, no, because Asia is huge, and I find Russian people very attractive, and they're part of Asia, and sometimes I find Persian people attractive. Anyway, so he's Japanese. I normally don't find Japanese or Chinese or Korean people that attractive. Every once in a while, I find somebody who is quite attractive, and this guy, he's I don't know if the actor is Japanese, but I thought he was cute, and I have no idea why I decided to go off on that tangent, but that little part in Tokyo, the guy at the bar who drinks or whatever, whoever the actor is, I mean, he looks completely different nowadays, I'm sure. Even at that age, Jake Gyllenhaal was so good. The first time I remember seeing Jake Gyllenhaal, it's Jake. Not seeing him and not knowing who he is. Because, I mean, City Slickers, you see him, you don't know who he is, and it's fine. At the time, you have no idea who he is. He's just their son. And it's not like he's Macaulay Culkin, so you would know him. No. He's just their son, and he's never done anything, and that's fine. You put him in that movie, and you're whatever. The first time I noticed the name and the person, Jake Gyllenhaal, was October Sky. And he did such a great job, but there are parts in there where like, okay, he's acting. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but he is acting. Okay? And I'm perfectly fine with that. But already in 2004, this movie, he has grown as an actor so much between okay, I'm gonna look it up. Look up Jake Gyllenhaal. When was October Sky? Is it the late 90s? It probably is the late 90s, but I might be wrong. I might be totally wrong. October Sky, 1999. Okay, so by the time he had done some really good stuff in between. Bubble Boy was just ridiculous. I get it. Donnie Darko was amazing. And if you haven't seen the director's version, absolutely see the director's version. It makes a difference, and it's only like 2 minutes longer. I swear to God, it is really only a couple of minutes longer, and it's so much better. Donnie Darko, it'll blow your mind again if you watch the director's version. Moonlight Mile, I loved Moonlight Mile. I own it. I think it's fantastic. So I had seen some things that he had done, and he progressed as an actor so much that when it came to this movie, The Day After Tomorrow, all his little tiny, and you see it right away in that first scene. He doesn't say anything. That first scene where his parents are on the phone to each other talking about him going to New York, about joining the scholastic team at school. It's probably because of a girl, but they start the conversation with, him failing calculus and blah blah blah. But his little reactions that the director Roland Emmerich decided to cut in, he does such a great job with those little reactions. It ups the bar from October Sky. Honestly, he has grown as an actor in those 3 or 4 years between those two films, and you can see it in his performance in this film. He does a really, really good job. I like him in this. And then he just went on and just, I think he's fantastic. Even nowadays, he's wonderful. I love that they decided his character is the nervous one, the nervous flyer, the afraid to fly, instead of the girl being the one that's nervous. A lot of times they assign certain things to masculinity, and I think that's ridiculous, and whether you're afraid to fly or not. But I love that they made him the one who is afraid to fly, and he's having the react, and he grabs her arm. It's such a great little scene, and he does a really, really good job. Again, his acting is really, really good. The bum on the street with the dog. So here we go. Who did I say the producer was? Mark Gordon? Is that who I said? Oh my goodness. I don't want this to be a 5-hour review. Mark Gordon, who did what? He did Speed. And this bum on the street who has the dog, he's such a great bum on the street. You would believe that he was a bum. He was the guy who owns the Jaguar in Speed. And he has the Jaguar that Jack Traven takes. How many similarities in films like this? Wow, okay. It didn't even pop in my mind until now. Jack Traven, played by Keanu Reeves, he ruins his car to get onto the bus. Anyway, that's the same actor, and I love when they have little side actors like this who do completely opposite characters like that and do it perfectly because you believe him 100% in each one of those roles. And he's just, quote unquote, a side character, a supporting actor. But a fantastic one. So fantastic that I pay attention to those things. This is LA. What weather? Oh, yeah. When the weather is affecting LA, and he's like, this is LA. What weather? What are you talking about? I love that because if we're so used to weather being one way, I mean, even this, August 20th, and we're having torrential downpour, it's insane. And this year, there was a lot of rain this year leading up to the summer. And then the summer was not quite as hot. I don't think we even had a day that reached 100 degrees in Burbank yet. And normally we get 100, 103, 100 something. Remember that LA is basically a desert, or supposed to be a desert. And so we're so used to one type of weather. And for us to even think that weather other than earthquake could really affect us in LA is a stretch of the mind. And that's why I love this line where he's like, LA, what weather? If Mother Nature, if the weather is going to react, it is going to react that quick. Like in this film, it's going to change so quick that you're not going to notice it. It's not going to be over time. It's going to be a boom. And that's kind of what I like about this film. It's very entertaining to think about these things because is it possible? And I think this is a note I wrote down later on. Like, I don't know the science of it. I don't know if all the science that they bring to this is legit or not. I believe it. The way they present it in the film, I believe the science. It makes sense in the way they present it. There's never a time where they present something that I don't feel like, oh yeah, that could happen. That sounds like a possibility. And it's fun to think about, these crazy, twisters in LA and like blah, blah, blah. It's an entertaining value, and this is an entertaining film, and it does a really good job of it. But also you had to think of when Mother Nature decides to do that, like I said in the beginning, what can we do aside from survive it and live it? In other reviews, I have talked about my distaste sometimes, a lot of times, for CGI. When you're using CGI in places where you really don't need it or shouldn't use it, and it's a little irritating. The Matrix, when he's fighting, there are fight scenes when he does not move correctly because his whole body is CGI. It drives me a little crazy, and especially watching it nowadays with how much CGI has progressed. Watching it nowadays, it almost looks cartoon. It's a little frustrating sometimes. So I have talked in the past about how I'm not the biggest fan of CGI. Okay? Especially when an alternative is something real, like the original Superman film, like I was talking about. The water comes down and destroys that little village, and they used a model for that, and I appreciate that more than if it were all computer. Okay, so scenes like that, I wish that they would really use computer. Or the remake of, it wasn't a remake, it was a horrible sequel of John Carpenter's The Thing. So John Carpenter's The Thing is a remake of The Thing from Outer Space from 1954. I'm pulling that out of my ass. It probably is 1954 or 50-something with James Arness, which I do own but haven't watched in a while. My dad was a huge fan of B films, and that was one of the films that I got when he passed away that he owned. Anyway, when you can do something tangible, like in John Carpenter's The Thing, and you have all that great makeup, but you can tell it's fake, yes, but there's something tangible and real there. I appreciate that more than when they did the sequel years later in the 2000 something or other, The Thing, and it was all computer and looked fake. To me and my eye, that is, you're taking me more out of it when you do that than if you can do it with something physical, makeup and animatronics and blah, blah, blah. Okay? This type of film, The Day After Tomorrow, it is impossible to do these things realistically. And so this is when I'm like, go haywire with CGI, please, because that's what I want to see. I'm perfectly fine with it. When when the waves are coming, or when the tornado happens, or when half the building is gone, or the water's going through New York, or all of that, I'm like, yes, please go CGI crazy. I'm perfectly fine with that. That's no problem. Independence Day, the same thing. I'm not the biggest fan of that movie, but again, the alien ships coming, the shooting down, the spaceships in the air, absolutely go CGI nuts, because that's the type of movie I'm watching, and I just let it go. But The Thing, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Expendables, why are you doing bullet shots with CGI? It's a choice. And in my opinion, I don't appreciate that choice because it looks fake. It literally looks fake. More so than a blood pack or actual makeup. So this is the case where I would love to. I'm perfectly fine with seeing CGI, and honestly, I just watched it. I just finished watching it, and it holds up. The CGI they did then is really not that bad. There's one or two parts. The wolves look bad. Anytime you're gonna try to do something, fire always looks bad. They didn't do any fire in this film. But fire always looks bad. They haven't been able to figure out how to get fire to look right. I think they've gotten water to look better than fire. I mean, if you remember James Bond, Die Another Day. Oh, it was Another Day thing. Okay. Die Another Day, when he's surfing in Antarctica, probably in the water. It looks horrible. Horrible. Oh my God. The CGI is horrible, especially with nowadays. When you look at the CGI nowadays. Okay, unfortunately, the Jurassic Park, when you look at the dinosaurs now, you're like, it looks computer. It looks computer. But you watch, Jurassic World, and it doesn't look as bad. It does. Their proportions are always way wrong. The last movie with the dinosaurs in the basement of that building, and you're like, a brontosaurus in the fucking basement? It's never gonna happen. I'm sorry, it's never gonna happen. You got your proportions way wrong. Anyway, off on too much of a tangent. The wolves, they got wrong, and a couple other things. There was a couple other things that looked a little fake, but otherwise, most of the CGI they used in this film holds up and actually looks really good. Still, to today's standards, still looks really good. Climate shift, ice age. Oh, that's, again, I was talking about, I don't know if the science is right, and I already mentioned that. I don't know if the science is right, but I believe it. I like the direct parallels between when they go to the museum in New York and they're talking about the mammoth, and the mammoth, the kid reads off of the little prompter that the mammoth was found with food in its mouth, indicating that it froze so quickly that the mammoth froze. It was so cold that the mammoth froze in mid-eating. I like the parallel between him saying that in that little scene, and like almost right after, you see the helicopters freeze in flight and fall, and then the guy gets out and he's literally moving and literally freezing at the same time. So I like that parallel, was really nicely done, that we're going to talk about the Ice Age and how that actually happened. That we have evidence that actually happened, and then we're showing you something that you might think is outrageous and ridiculous, but we have evidence that it has happened before. And so that little parallel was really nice. That note, New York was what LA was today. The scenes of New York with all the rain and the stuff like that, that's what LA looked like. I sat out, I walked outside and was watching it for a little while, and that's what it looked like. I already said that. Oh. That little scene where they get Jack. Jack gets the information from what's his name? What's his character's name? Ian Holmes' character's name. Rapson. Jack gets the information from Rapson and Rapson's team. So Rapson and his team are in Scotland, or over by Scotland. I think they're in Scotland. In a research, the Headland Society. I think that he said the Headland Society. They sent him information because they can't process it. And where Jack is in the United States, he has access to computers that will process it and forecast it. No problem. He gets the data from them. He forecasts it. And then he basically calls them and tells them, this is happening within weeks, maybe quicker. Or no. They thought it was weeks, and it's not anymore. They're literally talking 72 hours. They're talking days. And the massive cells of storm. It's such a great scene. I love the one they're talking on the speakerphone, and then he picks up the phone indicating, whoa. This is intimate. Not necessarily private, because they probably will reveal it to whoever's not on the phone. But this is intimate, and it breaks. Up until this point, this film has been non-stop. Michael Bay, Roland Emmerich, non-stop, constant go. Like watching a big action film. This is where we not just figuratively, but literally take a break from all that momentum. boom, whoa, slow it down and get real. And it's such a beautiful little scene when he tells him, get out, it's time for you to go. And Rapsum says, I'm afraid that time has come and gone, my friend. And then he says, what do we do? Save as many as you can. You know, it's heartbreaking at the same time, because you know that Rapsum and his guys are not getting out of there, and they know it. But it also gives us, like, here's a shift in the movie. It gets real now. We're not just entertained. We're not just having fun. We're not just woo, woo, woo. Now it's, like, serious. Now, you know, we're not just talking about weather. We're talking about millions of people. Millions of people's lives now. Because it's that serious. I like that little scene. It's really nice. Oh, yeah. So, I love this little love tension between Jake Gyllenhaal and that girl. I don't know who she is. Laura, Emma Rossum. I don't know who she is. Laura, Emma Robson. So, I love this wonderful love tension between the romantic tension between the two of them, because he likes her. I think she likes him. Neither one is willing to say it, and you kind of know that. Even though you don't hear it from her side, you know it. And then the kid from the other school is kind of hitting on her, because obviously he thinks she's attracted. They're attracted to each other. And so they're hitting on each other, playing with that little bit. But I love that part where the kid from the other school notices, after he saves her, she goes back for the kid, the French woman and her child in the taxi, and then he goes after them because he sees the wave coming. So Sam goes down there and gets her and brings her in. That's very, that was very noble of you. That was very brave of you. And he watches her walk. I should give her purse, and he watches her walk away. And the kid from the other school, who was more or less flirting with her, notices. And it's such a beautiful, selfless, wonderful scene from this rich kid, privileged New York, in a beautiful New York private school, has multiple houses. Stay with my dad. Stay with my this kid who is privileged in every way. And Sam, who might not be, who's from a broken home and probably doesn't have all that money, blah, 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 whatever. It's nice to see that the kid sees and recognizes Sam is in love with Laura. And he goes up to him in that great line, Sam, just tell her how you feel. It's such a beautiful little selfless scene, and I love it. Every time I see it, it touches me. It almost brings tears to my eyes. It's such a great little scene to see somebody that selfless, and recognizes that Sam is in love with her and just can't say it. Hasn't been able to say it yet, And he tells him, just do it. Just say it, man. When he gets on the phone with him, oh my God. 48 minutes. I have like pages of notes. Okay, let's move. I'll come for you. You hear me? I will come for you. I love that when Dennis Quaid's character, Jack, tells his son, I will come for you on the phone, and then there is no... Okay, so it's real easy to write a quick answer. Okay, I'll be here, or something quick and easy. Sam has enough time before he goes under to say anything, goes under the water to say anything, but I love the choice that they decide not to. Sam doesn't respond before the phone cuts out. It's a great idea to have no response. That's what drives, not just what drives Jack, but that's what drives that motivation. Even though we as the audience get to see what's happening on this side, he can't see what's happening on that side, and that's what drives him. It was a great choice to have no response. Such a cute little scene. I remember watching this in theater going, we almost got a shirtless Jake Gyllenhaal. Almost. I love that scene after the water where he comes out and she helps him and she like warms him with her body. It's such a cute, wonderful, romantic little scene. I know I've said in reviews before where it's hard for me to connect. Growing up as a gay man, it's hard for me to connect sometimes, a lot of times, with constant norms of homosexual relationships and things like this. But this one is done so well. There are some that are done so well that transcend. And I think this one is just done so well. It's so sweet, so cute. I love it when she warms him with her body. You know, some of us were paying attention in health class. It's such a great little scene. The ridiculousness, the absolute ridiculousness of a ship that size going by the library in New York is unfathomable. It's so stupid and unfathomable, but we believe it and we accept it. Why? I don't know. There's no way that ship skirting along barely had made the turns and got in there. There's no way. There's no way. But we accept it and we're like, okay, cool. And it's ridiculous. Okay, fine. If I were a director. If I were a director. Okay, so that little scene when Jack is trying to explain to the president, vice president, the administration about evacuating half of the U.S. going south, all going south. And the vice president's like that. That's easy for him to suggest. You know, he's safely here in Washington. And Lester Serrano, is it Lester Serrano? Oh my God, no, it's not Lester Serrano. It's Serrano. Oh my God, I am so sorry. I got your name wrong. It is. I know it. Every time I see it, Serrano. Nestor, not Lester. Nestor Serrano. Great actor. I like him a lot. I liked him in 24. He was so great in that season. Anyway, Nestor Serrano, not Lester Serrano. Nestor. So he says his son is in Manhattan. I thought you should know that before you start passing judgment. If I were the director, every time I see that scene, it's such a great line, and I would have punched that harder. I would have worked with Nestor and said, look, I respect you. You're a great actor. I like your choices. But this one, I need a punch. I need that line to be hit. I need it to be more important. He almost kind of throws it. His son is in Manhattan. I just thought you should know that. No, his son is in Manhattan. I just thought you should know that before you start passing judgment. It needed a punch. It did, in my opinion. Every time I watch that, it needed a punch. And that is probably the little bit of director in me that's like, Roland Emmerich was either fine with how it happened, or he didn't have a choice when it came to editing, and just said, these are the ones we have, pick that one. I don't know. But it's a great line. It's a fantastic line. Oh, the 12-year-old Scotch line. You know, will the generator run on this? You know, the Scotch. This is a 12-year-old Scotch. When they toast to blah 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 blah, and he said Manchester United, it always rings in my head when he toasts to Manchester United. He knows he's gonna die. Rapsum and his whole crew, they know they're gonna. All three of them, they know they're gonna die. And they're toasting basically to the end of their lives. You know, they know. For him to toast to Manchester United, his soccer team, football, soccer, however you call it, it always rings in my mind like, life will never be the same. Do you really think there's going to be a Manchester United? Life is going to change so drastically, because the northern half of the whole world will be under ice. For how long? I don't know how long, but a long time. This is the way it's going to be. The way we think of northern Canada, northern Alaska, northern Russia, the way we think of those regions, we will think of half of the freaking world. You know, almost uninhabitable, barely inhabitable. Okay? Is there going to be any? It always makes, when he toasts to Manchester United, it always makes me think of the reality of the situation after. Like, what is the world going to be like after? Is there going to be a Manchester United? Sir, I'm president of the electronics club, the math club, and the chess club. Now, if there's a bigger nerd here, please point him out. I love his delivery of that line, and I love that Jake Gyllenhaal is his character, and he smiles. He's still awake, but he's slinging. It's such a cute little piece, but it always makes me wonder, well, what about the science club? Why wasn't it the electronics club, the math club, and the science club? Okay, chess club. When Sam tries to save those who want to leave, their instinct, the cop is saying, we should all go. Is he a cop or a security guard? Now I can't remember. I think it was a cop. We should all go south. We heard on the radio, or a girl heard from a phone call in Tennessee that everybody's being evacuated south. And Sam tries to say, no, don't go out. Right now is the time to stay inside, stay warm, because the storm is going to get bad before it gets better. I wonder to myself, what side would I be on? Like when the book asks, what would you do? Basically, how would you deal with the situation? It makes me wonder. That line, that part when he tries to save them, always makes me wonder, what side would I be on? Would I believe this kid who says that the storm is going to get worse before it gets better and we should stay inside? Or would I believe what the girl says, that her family is being evacuated to the south and it looks safe enough outside to travel south? I always wonder, it always makes that introspective part of me wonder, which side would I be on? The dramatic reversal. Oh yeah. So when they say the dramatic reversal of, Americans fleeing to Mexico, across the Mexican border, that's just as, these lines in the sand are just as ridiculous as economy. This whole man-made structure of like, you can't cross this line or you can't cross this line. And just, come on, people. Come on, really? Do you think the earth gives a shit? Do you think real life, do you think that matters in real life? No, it doesn't. It's man-made structure, lines in the sand, borders, economy, money, numbers on a spreadsheet. It's not real. Anyway, there's a whole section in tax law down here we can burn. Burn it. When they're arguing over what books to burn, you can't burn Nietzsche, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but there's a bunch of, again, the ridiculousness of economy. There's a whole section in tax law we can burn. Always something to eat in the always something to eat in the garbage. And the fact that he insulates later. So this beautiful Darwinism. Who would survive? So the rich kid has no idea how to survive. Where do I find food if I'm not ordering it or buying it? How do I get warm if I'm not turning up the heat? On the AC or turning up the AC or whatever. That this homeless man, there's something always something to find in the garbage and insulate. Scrunch up paper, put it in, to insulate, to keep you warm, to keep the heat in. It's a great reversalism, just like that movie, damn, I forgot. Such a great movie. And, I'm going to look it up because I can't not say it. I'm going to look it up because it's a beautiful representation of that triangle of sadness. fantastic representation of who would survive in a situation like that. The super rich or the super, what we would call the super poor, super rich, super not privileged, or super poor. And this little scene talks a little to that, but Triangle of Sadness, that's what it's all about. It's so wonderful. It's so fantastic. And I love watching that reversal of what we would call privileged or not privileged, survival or not survival, rich or not rich. It's a really, really neat little way to look at things, way to look at life, a different way to look at life. When Sam's mom stays with Peter, that's so adorable. The little boy who's dying, or who's living through cancer, or was it leukemia? I can't remember. It's easy to miss her importance of the whole thing because she's not going after Sam. She's not, but she is important too in what she does, and that she stays with Peter, the little boy, is when everybody else leaves is speaks a lot to her character. The Gutenberg Bible. If Western civilization was to fall, I'm going to keep a piece of it. Gutenberg. So it reminds me of, speaking of, I said it before, Deep Impact. Speaking of Deep Impact, as the president, Morgan Freeman's character says, life will go on. And that's so important here when he's talking about the Gutenberg Bible and Western civilization lasting. This is the first, the age of the dawn of reason. This is the first printed book. And he says, in my opinion, mankind's greatest achievement is the written word. Something like that. He said something like that. I get how important that is. Absolutely. I totally get it. But as a society, as man, as human civilization, if one thing is constant, it is growth and movement. We will never stay stagnant. We will never not grow and go forward. And there are times of unfortunate regression because of our fears and insecurities, but we will always move forward because there's nowhere else to go except for forward. And the fact that he's worried about it is interesting. But I know, we always go forward. The VP becomes the president. So I feel like when they say the president dies because he was leaving, he was one of the last to leave Washington, I feel like they set us up for this, didn't they? Because the vice president is like, we're always dealing with the vice president. We almost never even see the president. And so the fact that he dies, I'm like, of course, they kind of set us up for that, didn't they? We were dealing with the vice president the entire time. So I was not all that shocked or like, okay, the president died, who cares? They didn't give us enough to care about the president because we were always dealing with the vice president, even though he was a jerk, CGI wolves. Oh, I already said the CGI wolves. That's fine. When they go for the medicine, it's a neat little scene. Of course, that's why the ship has to come, even though the ship in New York is absolutely ridiculous. But the CGI wolves, the CGI wolves is, okay, what else can you do? The eye of the storm, when everything freezes in seconds. They've turned the weather in that scene, when the eye of the storm happens and everything freezes, they've turned Mother Nature, the weather, like that quote that I did from World War Z, they turned Mother Nature into the bad guy in a horror movie. And the music and what you see is like perfectly like this belongs in a horror movie. She's coming after you now. I say she because we say Mother Nature. We could just as easily say Father Nature. Women are so quick to say, well, as guy is a man, as a woman, but we all almost always agree on Mother Nature. Well, why can't we agree on Father Nature? I mean, come on. Okay, so Father Nature's reaction and the freezing of everything coming after you, and the music and everything was just like a horror film, just like a slasher film, like, you know, Freddy Krueger's coming after you type of thing. And it's done really, really well. I like that little bit of a switch when Mother Nature is coming after. And right after the snap, the cold snap, after the eye of the storm, the sets are so beautiful with everything covered with snow. It looks like a overactive freezer, or a freezer that was left open and everything gets that frost on everything. Is really cool seeing that. When I did the review of Legend 1985 with Tom Cruise, Mia Sara, and Tim Curry, they did sets like that after, you know, darkness, after they cut the horn off the unicorn and the alicorn off of the unicorn, and everything's covered in that. That's what it reminds me of. The sets are really, really well done with all that, you know, frost over everything. It's really quick, because we're talking like this is the end, almost the end of the movie. So those little quick things were kind of neat, and to see everything like that. Man survived the last ice age. We're certainly capable of surviving this one. It all depends on if we're able to learn from our mistakes. I certainly wish that I could. I love his little line because it makes him even more, as if Jack's character wasn't human enough. It makes it even more human, because he's like, I've made mistakes in the past. I wish that I could change them. I can't believe that it took this to make me see that. And I want to grow. I want to get better. And if we want to survive as a human species, if we want to survive on this earth, because Father Nature has already told us that he is a hell of a lot more powerful than we have given him credit for, and we're fucking with him, and he's gonna react. That's what this whole movie's about. He's gonna react, and he's gonna get mad, and we are powerless to control. We will only be able to survive it. And for him to have this line, like, I hope that we can learn from our mistakes. I hope that we can live with Father Nature instead of against, and at the effect of. You know, humankind, or man, has survived the first ice age. We certainly are capable of surviving this one. We just need to learn. I love that. It's a neat little, it's a culmination of the whole film. I mean, this is what Roland Emmerich was trying to say, and it came across well. Even though it's just entertainment, he was trying to say something, and he said it well. So my last note is just that like just the closing scene when they're on the helicopter, and Jake, Laura, like, leans on Sam's shoulder, and he's like, and Dennis Quaid has this huge smile, and you're just like, whether you're attracted to him or not doesn't figure into it. I'm not attracted to him, but that smile is infectious. Like, Dennis Quaid's smile, when it's genuine like that, it's like so beaming and infectious. He has such a wonderful smile. And to end the movie on that, is like ending with John Hughes loved to end with John Candy. And somebody said in a YouTube, I think, or in an interview or something like that, they thought John Hughes was like in love with John Candy, because the way he treats him in films is just like with reverence. And he ended multiple films on a still of John Candy doing something, a wave or a smile or something, holding his hat, and, you know, or, you know, Uncle Buck, or, you know, what was that one? Trains, Planes, and Automobiles. You know, to end the scene with this is like ending with John Candy, with just a beautiful representation of just a wonderful human being, just a beautiful smile, a wonderful human being. And I love that little end scene was great. Okay, so that's what I think of The Day After Tomorrow. I think it's fun. It's not a 5-star movie, but it doesn't have to be. It's just entertainment and wonderful, and I've seen it dozens and dozens of times. So if you haven't seen it, Enjoy it. It's fun. It's not on the poster. That's fine. It's one of the ones on the 52-week challenge. And I will continue. So next, I promise I will do something that is on the poster and hopefully also in the book. And hopefully we'll get you one before the week is up. Okie doke. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your week. Oh, where was my mouse? See ya.